Thanks for joining us for this episode of Strategic Storytelling.
Jesse and I work together to help people and businesses reach and connect with their communities.
Brian is a visual storyteller, designer, and chief creative officer at Pathfinder.
Jesse is very passionate about entrepreneurship. He's a very loyal person, and he is a very caring individual as well.
In marketing, the storytelling leans on the strategy, but the strategy needs storytelling to be effective.
Agreed. Welcome to the inaugural podcast of Strategic Storytelling with Jesse and Brian. We're going to be talking about how we started Pathfinder and why we started this podcast. We get that a lot. We get, everybody knew what I did before and everybody knew what you did before. Well, sort of knew what you did before. But we get asked like, well, how'd this come together? So that's what we want to talk about today. Give you a little history about Pathfinder and how we got to where we are today. You want to start?
But where to
start? Exactly. Well, we can start with COVID. It was.
Well, it starts before that though.
It really does.
So we each, Brian and I had our separate businesses.
Yes. You had.
Brian had been.
What was the name of your
Catalyst?
Business? Catalyst is the name of your business.
Which was kind of built out of, we were going to do that incubation program and all of that.
Yep.
That didn't happen. So I wanted to continue to do that work anyway. And that was my path,
right.
And then
I was doing Raven Spring Creative, video production and photography, a little bit of animation in there as well. And I honestly don't remember when I met Jesse. Oh, no, I do. It was Merchant Street. One year you were sitting in with like the core group of people and we were just talking about like how to, get the message out of Merchant Street out to the masses. And I think that was the first time I met you. And that, and then from there, I think we just kind of kept seeing each other and meeting each other in the common spaces. And I think, to be honest with you, and as Barbie Brewer Watson does, she kind of is, the glue of a lot of businesses coming together. So it was about a year where we just we hung out with Barbie in her office.
Well, yeah, right? Because we did, was it work Thursdays?
Work Thursdays or work Wednesdays? That would make more sense if it was work Wednesdays.
And it was like we would just work on our own stuff.
Yeah.
But in the same space.
Like kind of
because there was always
ideas.
Like some mixed projects, like between the Chamber or Link Point, which is the third company,
yep.
or one of us. And then, over time passed. And we discovered that our services are obviously always complementary.
Yeah.
And then with Link Point, the third company that Josh Lundmark had started with web development and graphic design, we had the same client.
Mm-hmm.
or with Link Point, or we had my client bought a website or wants to do marketing, but now I need video for that, or I need graphic design for that, whatever it is.
Right.
And we just kept crossing. I think Brian and I, we talked like maybe we just need to talk about merging in general, and we wanted to bring Josh into that.
I don't remember exactly when it started, but it took
Brian.
It took a while. It took a while. Well,
no, I remember. So I started doing your books.
Yes.
I started doing your financial books. And the more we went down that road, it wasn't that we uncovered anything crazy. It was just like, hey, the inconsistency that we're finding in expenses and in revenues. And you're always doing project work. Josh was very similar. And it's just, you can never grow out of it because it's just.
I was struggling to get people on a something whether it was quarterly or monthly or yearly or whatever. I couldn't. It was project to project every single time, and then
so it's hard to grow out of that because you can't
build. Yeah, you can't build on
nothing
you can't build a business. You can build a business up to that point, but it's hard to grow the business from that point. And that was
every time you think you're growing, all of a sudden you hit a bad month. And
and then all of a sudden, I'm not growing.
So anyway, we started talking, and I was like, I think we could do a different model here. I think we can make this better, and we complement each other in our different skill sets. You're more creative, I'm more technical.
Mm-hmm.
And the big moment was when you said, I am tired of clients coming to me after I create them this beautiful, perfect video.
Yep.
And they're like, okay, thank you so much. Here's your paycheck. What do I do with this?
Yeah.
And you were like,
hands off. I've created the thing that you asked me to create. Here you go. And it happened a lot. It happened a lot more than I thought it would, because I thought people were approaching me because they already had a plan in place. They did not. they were I guess just drifting along and thinking a video was just the next thing they needed to do. And a lot of times, it was like, oh, it's because my competition is doing this, or it's because so and so is doing this. And it's like, well, that's all fair and good, but that's not a reason to do a video.
Right.
And
you do need to then use it to
why you want to
build the brand, get the employees on the same page, make sales, take your pick.
Well, yeah, what is it?
Something.
Yeah. So and then it's hard to book more work from that, because then they're like, well, okay, well,
we made this video and it was very nice, but we didn't see returns.
We didn't know what to do with it. Yeah.
Well, and that's the constant battle too. It's like, in marketing in general, I think we've talked about this a lot recently too. If we do a brilliant marketing and the client can't implement it well, or they can't handle the increased volume of sales, or we make a promise in marketing that they told us to make,
right?
But they get there and that's not the service they receive, right? Sales still go down, and then they can't pay for marketing, and it's just this constant battle because we're not in control of that part of it. Because you can tell a story as many times, just in many ways as you want, but if they can't follow through on the implementation of what that story is, well, then you're just telling stories.
And that's it. And that was what was happening, and we realized, we just kind of realized too, like, if we wanted to grow our businesses, we were going to be growing our businesses into each other's sector. And rather than doing that, because I didn't want to, I'd like to be a part of strategy, but I don't want to do all of the, the back end work with strategy. I just wasn't my strong suit.
Which is ridiculous because it's the most fun thing we do here. So
sure, I'll let you believe that. But I think, what kind of like sealed it for me is like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense. So like we started actually doing some projects together, but apart. Like you were still Catalyst, I was still Raven Spring.
Then we just did a combined contract. They paid one of us.
Yeah.
We ported the rest of the money, like a subcontractor.
Yeah, almost. We were basically a subcontractor.
But we went into it very much not subcontracting.
Yeah, we were like, we want to work on this
together.
Yeah.
You get benefit of both, and
yeah, and we found, I want to say pretty quickly, like, whoa,
people love that.
Holy cow, this works. This works really well. Also, I was doing the thing I love doing. You were doing the thing you love doing, and it just made a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then we wanted to round out our services. We wanted to be a full service marketing company, and obviously we needed a web company in there to make
web and design.
And that's the thing. Like, LinkPoint was always a part of the equation. We just never knew where Josh kind of settled on that. Josh was the former owner of ThinkPoint.
He was pretty coy with us for a little bit. It was almost like, because we were friends with him so long, we were like, you good, man? Like, you're not really telling us? Like, you just hate this idea so much. Long story short, a few months in, he says, guys, I didn't want to say too much because I just wasn't sure. And me and my wife have been talking about it, but we think we just need to be done all together with this business, and we want to move. But I wasn't sure yet, so I didn't want to like dump that on you. And long story short, said, if anything, I'd love for you guys to buy this out.
Yeah.
So we spent,
and we were surprised. We were a little surprised, but we were like kind of relieved too. We're like, oh man, this will work. This is perfect. This works. This is exactly where we want to be.
So then at the same time, almost literally, COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, well,
it was like within a month of each other.
See,
the shutdowns were like
maybe my memory is
March,
misremembering. I thought for some reason it kind of came together around COVID, but no, I think you're right. It was like right before that we kind of
we heard from Josh that he was probably going to be done
right
probably the same month that shutdowns began.
Okay.
Or right as anyway, somewhere in there. Yeah. Same within the same 30 to 60 days.
Yeah. One, whether, I hate to say advantageous or not, that very much worked for both of us because we could then, the big word for around COVID was pivoting, and we both had to pivot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, video, like you couldn't go anywhere.
I couldn't go anywhere.
So then we just spent we met every day for a couple months.
Yeah.
Virtually.
We met every day virtually, sometimes twice a day.
And we spent a lot of time talking about how we're going to do this. What do we need to think about? We're going to inherit these employees from LinkPoint.
Right.
What are we calling ourselves?
Right.
That was a big astronomical.
It was very meticulous in all of those things. Well, because, for anyone that knows us, Jesse and I have very different personalities that work for us. Which
is why I obviously want to call us Business Services Inc.
That's amazing. Exactly. So creative.
I'm just kidding. I never thought that ever.
No, he did not. I can attest to that. But we did we really we looked at it from the ground level and microscopically. We really just kind of wanted to make sure we were both building a business that had a piece of both of us in it, and but also worked together. And it took a while just because, like I said, we were two different people. And then I think
I wasn't even sure I liked you yet.
Same. No, I would have never started a business if I didn't like you or trust you. I trusted you. And that is the reason why we did work together on some of those, some of those earlier projects as our two separate entities. Cause we were like, let's try this out. Cause if we hate it, and we end up hating each other, we can just walk away. Yeah. We ended up not hating each other. And we also we're like, this is actually working really nicely. So let's keep doing it. And so, yeah, we meticulously went through all the processes. We went through all of the just, who we are, what we wanted to be. And then, the name. Oof. The name took a really
I don't even want to talk about it. It was so strenuous.
It was months, wasn't it? I think it was.
Yeah, because we were pretty sure of a name, which is not the name.
Yes.
That we just, we were we had some issues with it, but we couldn't come up with something better. We probably went through 50 name ideas at least.
Yeah. And neither one of us could really say 100%, oh, yes, that's it. That's the one.
That was the biggest problem.
We're kind of mad on this one.
Well, it was during COVID, and that was really giving us some haze of the brain,
True.
That's what I attribute it to.
I just attributed that, we're two different people, and we were trying to figure.
No, it was the COVID haze, man. But anyway, so you came up with it finally. You came one day.
So I was like, I think we kind of both came up, I was like, something resonated with me, and it was Trailblazer. And I mentioned that to you.
Yeah, we talked about that name a little bit.
And you're like, oh, I kind of like that too. And I'm like, but we hated the name. Trailblazer was not the name we wanted.
Disagree. It's pretty cool.
But we
liked new trails.
We liked the idea behind that.
The idea. I think the feeling of it was what we were trying to embody.
Yeah.
The name was it just feels a little harsh.
It seemed a little Western to me as well. We're
Western movie shootout.
Yeah, exactly. Blazer Trail boys.
So then I think I don't remember how exactly. I don't know if you do, but you came with Pathfinder. So.
I think when I do things like this, I usually throw it into a thesaurus and just start seeing if any
did a lot of that.
Any names or words pop out. And I think from Trail Path came from that.
Trail Path.
And that didn't work.
Path Blazer.
And then, there we go. We're going to rebrand
right now.
Path Blazer.
No more yellows, just blazing reds and oranges. It's a fire.
Path Blazer. So I think I just started putting, and I feel like this is what I did with Raven Spring when I had it too. I just kind of started trying to sort of mush words together and see like what worked. And then I finally like Pathfinder. I'm like, I like that. I think that and it resonated with me, and what we were trying to accomplish and trying to build was we wanted to be able to help our clients and help them on their path to their success. And
I think we really picked a name that embodied not the services, not completely the services we were offering. And it's not that. It's just not it's more about the feeling of what we're trying to accomplish for our clients, for ourselves at that point too.
Yeah.
And it just so happens to fit the services we offer anyway.
Yes.
But it just fit really nicely. And I hope that when people see our name, that's how they feel about it too. I mean, we've had some clients, the first time they've talked to us, say things about that name like, yeah, I need help figuring out where I'm headed here.
Yeah. That was really some of the first guiding principles for Pathfinder was like, we want to help. We want to lead. We want to help our clients down this path. And what that path is, sometimes they don't know. So that's why we wanted to help them find what that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was, I don't know. So moving into the next part, what was more arduous, was finding the name or getting the logo?
Finding the name was way worse.
You think so? Okay.
I think finding the name was way worse.
The logo was tough, I thought too.
Well, I don't really remember seeing a ton of versions of the logo, to be honest. I feel like that actually went I think we saw a couple weird, here's some smattering of ideas, concepts, and we picked a concept out of that, and that became the basis of what the logo became. It wasn't it, but it was the Triskelion symbol. So
when I was searching for my name, Ravenspring, I like to be inspired by just kind of about everything. So I was just kind of doing deep dives on just like, what should I name my business and And I came up across a Celtic symbol called a Triskelion, and it's 3 kind of coils going into each other.
Yep.
And that was something, again, that resonated with me. And I was like, oh, well, that really makes sense. Because like we're 3 businesses that are going into
that was like the perfect thing. It's like literally it was 3 businesses, not 2 merging, not 1 becoming a new thing. It was 3. And that's just a rare thing to happen at the same time anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never heard of it before, but before us.
Well, yeah, I was going to say,
remember we asked the lawyer, like, so like, is this a merger or is this a purchase? He's like, well, it's technically a purchase or the merger and then a purchase.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. You're like, oh, so it's we're doing both.
Well, great, because we weren't sure how that worked with 3 at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't know if you can see on the camera here, but it's the 3 coming together.
Yeah. So what the designer came up with was, like, they zoomed in on that Triskelion, and basically
the very center of it.
That's basically the very center, and then they just kind of curved then the lines around each other and then kind of going into each other. And when we saw that, we're like, whoa, yes. That.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Trends change and everything over time, but like this is a fairly timeless symbol. Well,
and so that
doesn't look like it's going to become like a dated thing ever. It just, the 3 coming into 1 in terms of the actual businesses. But then also just, I mean, I think the symbol in fact means like paths and 3 coming into 1.
Yes,
and
it was.
The symbol means path, literally. And it was like,
it just,
here we are.
I think once we found that name, I was like, oh, you know what? I did some research a long time ago, and I think this might work. And so I think I showed you, and you're like, okay, yeah, I think so too. And then once, like, I think we were still trying to like figure out like the coiled circles, kind of coming in. And
it was
we're
a little
like,
too coily.
Too coily.
As it was.
And then finally, like,
but when we just zoomed in,
piece like, of it. Oh, there it is.
and I mean, really, when that happened, when he zoomed in on that and showed us that, it was like,
there it is.
You might need to just touch up that end, but that's it. There it is. It's right there.
It was pretty apparent. You're right. I do remember that. Like the name was definitely arduous. The logo, I think that's why the logo kind of just clicked into place because of all the work.
3 to 1 means path. Yep. I mean, seriously, match made in heaven or whatever you want to call it. But
it was.
What more could you do at that point?
No, we've debated everything we could possibly debate. Here it is.
That was hard. I remember that being hardly a conversation or we needed more ideas or anything like. It was like, that's it.
Yeah.
around. We're all good with this.
I think we made a few tweaks.
Barely.
And yeah, I mean, it was like,
it was
quick. Once the concept was out, like I think it was 95% done. Like it was like almost there. So, I mean, we make logos and graphics all the time now. I don't think anything has ever been that easy since.
Well, we also have a lot more resources now, too.
This is true.
But yeah, I mean, so we became Pathfinder. I mean, that is
the story of
that
Pathfinder.
Is the story.
Why
we had planned for so long, so many months during COVID, all that kind of stuff. I mean, most people were like, "What do you mean you're starting a new business right now?" I'm like, I think we can do this.
Well, a lot of people were definitely questioning,
like, what are you doing?
The sanity of this decision. But
the world is on fire. What are you doing?
We looked at it as like, we have to do this. Like it makes the most sense, especially from where we were at.
And I don't know. I don't really recall feeling like COVID was like killing it for us, like, or making this like such a much harder decision. Like I never felt through that whole thing. I was like, no, I think this is going to work. I think this is, and
if anything,
you know me, or well, listeners may not know me, but you know me. I don't just jump.
No, you do not.
Nope. I'm good with risk if it is calculated.
Yes, you're Mr. Spreadsheets.
No,
Dr. Spreadsheets.
We're not. See, I knew that was gonna. We're not doing that. That's not my name. But you know it. And so for me, and I felt hardly any risk in it.
Well, I
didn't know how successful it was going to be or how quick.
Right.
But I did not feel like it was. It did not seem. I could not find anything that said to me this might fail.
Right. And I think for at least me, I think with COVID and then like trying to figure out like what was next, like for us, like to be able to have that time, you know, discussing it with each other, like
it freed up some time.
it definitely, yeah. I mean, it did. I don't like if we were still working while we were still trying to develop that, I think it would have slowed it down for sure. So you know, if anything, COVID's helped us like kind of take a step back and be like, okay,
and find our path.
And I see what you did there.
Brilliant.
It was truly magical. But yeah, I mean, I think that it helped us kind of just, you know, find the true, you know, like I said, the true path on where we wanted to be.
Man, how hokey can you get, right?
I mean, it is kind of hokey, and it makes me kind of twinge a little bit thinking about it. But that's truly how it happened, and
we've been running ever since.
We have. So like we've been open. Is it 3 years now? I've lost track.
3 and a little bit.
Three and some change. So, you know, within 3 years, we've had
which seems
3
like
offices.
About 5 seconds or
yeah, right. We've had 3 different offices. We're currently in our last office. I'm not moving again.
Brian swears that the next tenant of the space, if there is one, will have to just deal with.
Which has to deal with me as Brian. This is Brian's office. He's not moving.
I'm here now.
I'm just here for the eternity. So yeah, and yeah, I mean, we started off with it was you and me, and Catherine.
2 employees that are no longer here, and then Shy and Tim.
So that's, what was that? 6 people? 7 people?
I don't know. I don't really want to count.
I mean,
2, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7.
Yeah, 7. 7 people, and now we're sitting nearly, you know, 3 years later now.
Close to 20.
Close to 20 people.
Yeah.
Which, if you would have asked, well, first of all, if you would have asked me 3 years ago that would happen, I would have been like, I think you're crazy. No, that's
I would have said, well, I spreadsheeted it. And
then I would have been like, okay.
Actually, I remember my original projection sheets. I think by year 3, I had us pegged at 10.
Really?
11.
Okay.
So I was off by like, hey, but I'm conservative, you know.
This is true.
So I was off, but in a positive way. I was off, not a negative way.
Yes. No. And I mean, did you expect the growth? I mean, you have your thumb on the pulse of the business.
No, I mean, included in those projections I did originally. Okay. I can also say that our revenue is significantly higher than what I had planned for there. But then also just all the other crazy opportunities and things that kind of came out of the woodwork as we've gone along. I mean, we can jump ahead a little bit to the podcasting, right? But that's something we've really started taking off during this 3-year window. Something we decided to invest in acquiring the Can't Keep podcast, bringing Jake on board, and now doing the Strategic Storytelling podcast, right?
A great ad,
and others.
Amazing,
perfect ad. He's not listening here at all.
He's not listening. So he's not engineering this at all.
Except there is some things we need to talk about with him later. No, he's been great, so great, and we're doing these new things, and it's it's different for our area, our geographic area. We've been able to experiment a lot and try some new things, and some worked, some haven't. But we've had just the opportunity to spread our wings and do some really cool stuff in a short period of time. And
I think that's amazed me the most is like the opportunities that have either found us or that we have found. Either way, it's kind of amazing to me. Like
not what we started with in mind.
No, not at all.
Couldn't have dreamed it up.
No, and the thing is like. I think in the, like the early days, like, and, it's year one, let's say we would go, you're the business guy. So I'm always, I'm leaning on you for that.
Yeah. And he's always like, hey, buy me this.
Buy me that. I truly am doing that.
And I'm like, stop it. The spreadsheet says no.
The spreadsheet says no. I hate the spreadsheets. But I'd be like, hey, how are we doing financially? And he's like, we may have to start really kind of like getting, finding the more low hanging fruit or doing this or doing that. And like,
and then surprise.
And then worry about it for maybe 24 hours. And then all of a sudden.
Okay. Like, let's be realistic here. It was at least 48.
Okay. 48. Right. And then, and then what was interesting is like, something would just kind of pop up and then 2 or 3 other things would pop up. And we were like, well, where did that come from? Like what?
Well, I think we've been, as a company, I think we've been very careful is the wrong word. Intentional.
Yes.
To sow a lot of seeds. We
well, we were doing that in our own businesses as well.
Yeah, like we built lots of relationships over time. We've always tried to do the right thing, even when it hurts. We've had some really uncomfortable things happen with people or clients and stuff. I mean, that's any business. That's just what happens. But we try to just like take those things head on and be as honest and good people as we can, even if we're getting screwed sometimes. And I think that's paid off. I mean, we're a marketing company, so we didn't try to like, gung ho, digital ad this to
right.
Pay all these ads and get them that way. We try to be very organic about it. And so some of those things, organic stuff does not necessarily see a return the next day. It just doesn't. And
we definitely went into grassroots effort with that. Yeah.
But over 3 years, it's done a lot. And we've tried to, I don't know if they always see it this way, but we try to invest in others, We'll just keep picking on Jake since we're on a podcast. But, we saw Can't Keep podcast, and it was this really cool thing locally. And lots of people, like, all positive things about Can't Keep podcast.
And Jake is a great dude, too. So.
Well, we'll see about that. But everyone had positive things to say, and we were like, we want to do something like that, like just because we care about the community and whatever. But like, let's talk to this guy first and see if he's just interested in like combining resources and doing this thing. And obviously, he's here. Yeah. So that worked out really well.
Spoiler alert.
But it's all about investing in those things that we care about, and we want to see the business side of that. But it's trying to find a way to make the business part work so that we can do the things that we really want to do that are really good for ourselves, for others, for the people we're investing in, for the community, whatever. And so far, all those things have turned out, bar one, pretty well.
Yeah. I mean,
so,
and it's something that we like to kind of remind ourselves, I think our differences helped us get us there. Like you're the numbers guy. You're always going to be the numbers and data guy.
I feel like you're all shortchanging me. Like it's just always numbers. I do other things too.
So is data.
I do other things.
I know you do. Like Legos.
That's not what I meant.
But yeah, I think that's helped us. And I think our differences sometimes less times than they've helped us. Like sometimes we can butt heads, but once we part ways
it's all
for
in the
a second,
of making it better.
And then coming together like, okay, I see what you're saying. Let's do it. Let's figure it out and just go from there. Like, yeah. And it's always from a place of caring. It's always from a place of, I know we can accomplish these things. Let's go accomplish them.
Right.
And just in finding that common ground to get there.
Well, I think it's, we're not going to talk about all the things we're doing on this podcast. Doesn't make sense. But,
right.
We are currently in the thrust of how do we help others find their path, and that looks a lot of different ways. But
each client is different.
And two, I think just some of the investment type of stuff we're doing.
That too.
It's all about community for us. It's all about how we can support our people and one another and build something cool. And I think, we, I don't know, we're just trying to embody what we started as and not forget that in the mess of growth and frustration and how do we do this and how do we do that and pressure and
Well, I think you brought something up. So it's relatively the new year. We just had a meeting with all the leadership and wanted to talk about like, okay, what are we doing? I think you brought up something really really quite meaningful, and it was. And I think it's very easy when we get busy and we're focusing on growth, but instead of focusing on growth, we're focusing on the task.
Yeah.
And you brought that up and that really resonated with me. And I was like, and you said, let's, obviously the tasks need to get done, but we need to focus on the growth. And for me, like we need to focus on the growth. That's, the growth is all things, it's the business part, it's the creative part, it's all those things. Are there tasks that we need to get there? Yes. But let's not focus so much on just like checking a box off. Let's focus on what that actually means.
Yeah, I mean, checking boxes off, I think for some people, just like gets them going. You know? Oh man, I get to check the box off. It's so great.
Yeah.
Right. That's how they work. And that's, we need people like that. But, as a company, and the reason I thought about that is like, I think that when things are stressful, when things are busy, when we look at those check boxes and how many there are, we get bogged down by, I don't want to do that. I'm too worn out. I'm too tired. I'm got a sick kid at home, whatever it is. And it's hard to check the boxes off and do that, especially when it's like the grind work that nobody wants to really do. Right. But when we reframe that, and I think this has been indicative of our entire company's life, but we're just trying to refocus on that now of like, if we say that all these tasks are things that are just tasks that are stressing us out and require more work hours, whatever, that's very different than these are the things that we're going to do to help the rest of the team continue to grow individually, as a company, as a community, whatever.
Yeah.
And when you put that at the forefront, like you start with that book, start with why, right? That's the why. All of a sudden, even the menial tasks that no one really wants to do, they don't feel so bad anymore.
Right.
The person that sent you a nasty email doesn't feel so bad anymore because you're like, well, I got to deal with this. And that's how we grow.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to learn something from this nasty email, even if it doesn't sound like I do.
Well, right. There's always something to learn from that. Yeah.
So
for sure.
Just really trying to reframe that, I think, for all of us here. And that's who we want to be.
Yeah.
And we're not always going to be perfect. Let's be serious. No one is. If you think that, then you're kidding yourself.
Not by any means.
But as long as we keep that at our forefront, and that's our why, I really do believe that we'll continue to grow and we'll continue to become something that was worth doing.
Yeah. And something that I think I read it somewhere. It's something I've been telling my team recently, and you brought up nobody's perfect. And trying for perfection is silly.
Good luck.
Good luck. It is.
I would love to watch you in that challenge.
It is unsustainable. It is not a thing you can do. I'm like, I don't want you to be perfect because we're all human. We're not going to be perfect. but we all can be excellent.
Yeah.
And
strive for it.
It's the
path.
It's the path, if you will.
We're not end finder. We're not called end game.
Yeah, exactly. We're Pathfinder.
It's the path. Like,
yes,
there's always going to be something new to learn, always something new to do. And in the world of marketing, as everyone's seen in the past few years, it's constantly changing.
Yeah,
marketing's constantly changing. So, to say that we've figured it out and we've arrived and we will be here permanently is just, right. I mean, sorry.
Well, it's always going to change.
That's a really great way for your business to close in a few years.
Exactly. Always have to be seeing what the next thing is, but also being aware of the past and being present as well. So
why don't we move into just kind of wrapping up with
the name of the podcast.
Yeah. So, and this actually, it's indicative of the entire path we've been on for the past 3 years. Path. But also just like our planning, right? So when we were planning, when we were in that COVID time, when we were not Pathfinder yet, but we had come up with a name, we didn't necessarily think we needed a tagline, but we were like, what do we want to be? Like, in summary, like, what is I don't even think we decided it was like the vision statement or anything or the mission statement necessarily, but we said strategic storytelling. And strategic and storytelling was the marriage of us and what you wanted to bring and what I wanted to bring to the table. And it makes sense too, right? Because as we talked about many times, and I think I talk about it in the lunch and learns we do and everything, storytelling by itself can be beautiful and great and wonderful, and it can go absolutely nowhere and result in nothing of value. Strategy by itself,
who's your audience?
Might be brilliant and might not be heard at all.
Right.
Which I've seen many, many times. But you bring those two together and you're like, hey, we're going to tell stories in a way that resonates with people, that can be heard, that can result in growth and those kinds of, all that. We're going to do it in a way that has results, that has a plan behind it, like where we're going to tell this story, how we're going to tell this story, to who are we telling this story? And have that be the core of everything we do, including our subsidiaries and everything now. Yeah. That is the core of what we do, is that strategic storytelling.
Yeah, and from the very get-go, from when we started Pathfinder, our clients resounded or like, oh my gosh, yes, this makes sense. Like, and and
yes,
it just and we got it, but like it was us trying to getting them there.
It's kind of like that thing, like where people like, you're like, it's at the tip of my tongue, I can't quite put it, and then someone says it, and you're like, that was so simple. Exactly. Why didn't I think of that?
And it really brings
it all together.
It was so simple, but I mean, it was a hard road to get there. But I think strategic storytelling just makes sense. It's definitely something. That's the thing. So that's why we wanted to start this podcast. We wanted to, talk about the strategy. We wanted to talk about the storytelling part of it, because they're both important pieces, and they're, sometimes you may think that they're, not supposed to go together, but I think in marketing it has to. Like, you have.
Well, how many times do we see this? Like, with just individuals and different, like in businesses, it was like, the business has this beautiful logo and no brand. The business has this really well-built website, but the story there is not.
It's dull or just not
non-existent.
It doesn't exist. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to marry that, and it usually is because it is very different people that come up with those things. I mean, we've struggled ourselves with. We have a constant battle here about the creative time and space and energy, and the the client's only paying X. You can't spend 8 hours. They're only paying 3 hours. You spend 8 hours and we're out.
Right.
Like, we lost money.
I know who you're talking to right now.
Yeah. Brian. God,
yeah, it is me.
So we with that in mind, though, I mean, and we don't need to go on this particular episode, but we have always been careful about our business model and figuring out how we can continue to give more space to the creatives without losing the business. over it. And that's a really, really hard thing because creative brains just think so differently than business strategy brains. They're just different and they both have needs, but those needs almost never line up exactly in the normal world.
Right. One quote I really like, and it's a nice life quote, and it's also, I think it pertains to this. Jocko Willink is a podcast I listen to, and he talks about discipline, and he's I think an ex-Navy SEAL, and he really talks about like, putting your best foot forward. And his big thing in this quote is, with discipline comes freedom. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that just hit me to my core. I was like, oh man. And you're right.
You think you're free without the discipline, but you're wrong.
No, but you're wrong. But with that discipline, it's like, oh no, you have more freedom to do all of those creative things, to do to play, to try new things out.
Yeah. If you get the discipline things figured out, all of a sudden everything opens up a little bit.
It does. Yeah.
Makes sense.
When we started doing this, and when that kind of fit into that quote, I was like, oh man, yeah, this is it. This is exactly what and then personally, that's what I was struggling with when I was starting. It just couldn't get past that hump, and then finally we pulled it all together. And I mean, if you would have asked me. Hell, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I don't think I would have told you like, oh yeah, I'm hosting my own podcast with my business partner, with upwards of 20 employees in a cool building that we are in, and I've been like, no, this is another Brian you're talking about. I don't know who you're talking about.
I'm sorry about that, because I obviously envisioned this perfectly, exactly the way it is. It's
no,
all come.
No, I'm glad you did.
My plan has all come together.
That's where the discipline comes in, right?
But anyway, so I think there's lots of more topics we can go into and talk about, because kind of how we did some things,
and we will eventually.
Our business model, I think, is a really cool thing that we can get into at some point. But yeah, that's the podcast. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Mm-hmm. This is strategic storytelling, and the podcast is our strategic storytelling, right?
That's right. Yeah. So thanks for listening and watching, and enjoy.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Strategic Storytelling, a Pathfinder podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow our socials. For more information, visit our website, yourpathfinder.io.